Hey, hi, hello. Welcome to Diana Emerson today. We are going to listen to Guilty as Charged, the new detectives.
In rural Tennessee, authorities must piece together blood-stained clues to find a missing woman, dead or alive. Stewart County, Tennessee is a small rural community where even the police know everyone by name. They average just one violent crime a year. On a Monday night in late 1990, auditors found a car partially hidden by trees. It appeared to have run off the road. As he approached the car, he noticed no one inside. The hunter wrote down the license plate number and contacted police. The Stewart County Sheriff's Office received the call. The dispatcher sent a patrol unit to investigate. She ran the license plate number and discovered the car was registered to June Atkins. Earlier that day, a woman was reported missing. Now, police feared June Atkins was wandering the woods, alone and injured. In Tennessee, Stewart County Police dispatched to an abandoned car that had run off the road. The car was registered to a missing woman named June Atkins. Police found the car wedged against a tree. The passenger side door was open, and it looked as if someone had gotten out. Inside the car, police found little. They searched the area, wondering if June had crawled out and lay injured somewhere nearby. They found nothing. Sheriff David Hicks questioned June's husband about his missing wife. He said June went to visit her mother in a nearby town, but never arrived. Atkins was concerned. If she didn't go to her mother's house, he didn't know where she was.
We don't start taking missing persons investigations this serious.
Sheriff Hicks told Atkins he found her car and believed she had been in some kind of accident. June's car was impounded. Investigators hoped it would yield some clues as to her whereabouts. Forensic examiners looked for fingerprints and anything else that would explain what happened to June. But the only thing they found were the missing woman's fingerprints. Police needed to act quickly. If June Atkins was injured and wandering in the woods, she would need medical attention. A team of local and state law enforcement personnel, along with dozens of community volunteers, searched the woods where June's car was discovered.
We had a tremendous amount of help from surrounding counties. A lot of people that just called in volunteering, wanting help when they heard that Gene Atkins was missing.
We're going to divide up the two groups. Half of you start on the right side, half of you start on the left side. Stay within 15, 20 foot of one another, so you've got good sight of everybody as we go through the woods. Okay, let's go.
The search party fanned out in different directions. A Officers on horseback tackled the off-road terrain. The Tennessee Highway Patrol provided helicopter surveillance and a contact point from above. The search lasted for several hours. Police received a call over the radio. Something had been found near the Paris Landing Bridge. Rick Stout of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation was part of the search team. He brought what was discovered to Sheriff Hicks. A group of searchers had found a patchwork quilt. It appeared to be bloodstained. Near the quilt were a pair of men's cotton work gloves. The gloves smelled of gasoline. The investigation changed as searchers realized they may now be looking for a body. Crime scene technicians joined the search. Later that afternoon, several miles from where the quilt was found, a woman's wallet was discovered.
We found some contents of a purse. Some of them we know belong to June Atkins because her identification was in a wallet that was found. Found some other contents that appear to have come from a purse.
The search continued for several more hours. Then, more disturbing news. A large amount of blood had been found in the grass. The area was photographed and the blood swabbed for analysis. They collected anything that may be of help, including blood-soaked grass. Underneath the grass, they found a woman's watch. Rick Stout believed the findings suggested something horrible had happened to June Atkins.
We have a car that was dumped in the woods. We have her personal belongings. We have a quilt that had blood on it. There's got to be an explanation for that. We find personal belongings thrown out along the side of the road. She's not going to do that. Her driver's license, her wallet, and other personal items. That tells us that there is foul play involved.
There was blood, but no body. And investigators had questions. At this point, they had no idea what happened to June Atkins.
We did not find any evidence as to where June might be or her body might be. We had some hopes of possibly finding June alive, but we did not.
Everything collected was sent to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Crime Lab. Forensic serologist Patty Chilby tested the items for blood.
I opened the quilt up, spread it out. It did have a very large blood stain on it. And so the first thing I did was a chemical color test to see if it was blood. And my chemical color test indicated that it was. So the next thing I wanted to do was determine if it was human blood or not. Definitely blood. So I did testing on that and determined that it was indeed human blood. Looks like dirt.
The work gloves were too dark to see any blood.
I did not see a thing. There it is. Look at that.
Using an alternate light source, Chilby examined the gloves.
Not very big.
She discovered several small stains resembling blood, but they tested negative. The results were inconclusive. She then examined the sage grass.
From a different scene, they had brought in some grass that they had just pulled up. And so I looked at the grass and did indeed find blood on the grass. We'll get a picture of it later.
The blood on the items was compared with a sample of June Atkins' blood provided by her doctor. The blood matched.
Yeah. Did you know she believe quite a bit to have this much blood?
Chilby was asked by investigators if she could determine whether June was still alive.
The volume of blood that was on the quilt was a fair amount of blood, but I mean, it could have been from maybe a non-lethal injury. But the fact that there was 2 or 3 areas of grass that had blood on it, that was more indicative of someone who had bled out quite a bit. And that was fairly indicative that she could have been mortally wounded.
June Atkins was dead. Her killer was unknown. And now, police needed to find out who killed her and why. Tennessee police continued to investigate June Atkins' brutal murder. Although no body was found, massive blood at the scene indicated she could not have survived.
Can you tell me if that's June's watch?
June's husband recognized his wife's watch. He had given it to her as a Christmas present. Sheriff Hicks broke the news of June's murder to her husband and asked if he could think of anyone who wanted to harm her. June's husband recalled a note he found in June's car several weeks before she disappeared. It was in a man's handwriting asking her to meet him at the Dyers Creek boat ramp. That was all he knew. Deputies spoke with June's co-workers, hoping her friends could identify the mystery men. Sheriff David Hicks.
Friends of June told us that June had been seeing a man by the name of Kenneth Pickett, and that they had been meeting at the Dyers Creek boat ramp.
Hicks tracked down Kenneth Pickett at the logging site where he worked. He admitted he knew June. He was dating her husband's sister. And he denied ever meeting her at the Dyers Creek boat ramp. Sheriff Hicks was not convinced.
we needed to gather a lot more information before we talked to them.
Police canvassed the neighborhood around the culprit. A clerk at a nearby convenience store knew June well. And she also knew Kenneth Pipkin. She didn't think highly of Pipkin. She described him as a womanizer, obsessed with his truck. So obsessed, he kept a patchwork quilt on the seat to keep it clean. One day, she recalled seeing Pipkin and June talking outside. She watched as June followed him out of the parking lot in the direction of the Dyers Creek boat ramp. The clerk told police Pipkin had come in looking for June on more than one occasion. Her story did not match Pipkin's. Police got a break. A fisherman called in with new information.
He said on the day she disappeared that he was at the Dyers Creek boat ramp. He saw a woman and a man in a pickup truck.
His description of the vehicles matched both Pipkin's and June's. Police brought Kenneth Pipkin in for questioning. They showed him pictures of the bloody quilt.
I remember having a blanket.
He admitted it was similar to one he used in his truck. But his had been stolen earlier that year. Pipkin swore he had nothing to do with June's disappearance. He claimed he hadn't even seen her on the day she disappeared. Police knew Kenneth Pipkin was lying. But they needed more to prove he was a murderer. Now they needed to learn why. Police in Tennessee had a suspect in the murder of June Atkins. Large amounts of her blood were found in the nearby forest, but no body had been recovered.
I got pictures of it. We're trying to spread it out.
The suspect, Kenneth Pipkin, was seen with her shortly before her disappearance. A search warrant was issued for his truck and home. Crime techs processed the vehicle. They discovered tiny cloth fibers on the floor. They were collected and sent to the crime lab. Several pairs of cotton work gloves were found in the house. They were the same size and style as those found at the crime scene. The evidence was sent back to the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Forensic specialist Russ Davis assisted on the case. He brushed the quilt found at the crime scene, collecting any loose fibers.
The issue became, can we connect the victim through this blanket to our suspect? And that's where the fiber evidence came from. Fiber is associative evidence. Fibers are the basic unit of all textiles. Clothing, carpeting, anything like that will shed the fibers, a very small portion which makes up the textile garment. And that's what can transfer.
Davis then checked for a match.
Those samples are then compared to the known samples from the vehicle in this case. Then they are looked at to determine if there in fact was fibers just like the ones found in the blanket found inside the vehicle.
Fibers from the bloody quilt matched the fibers collected from Pipkin's truck.
The report went out dealing with serological evidence that this quilt had in fact been bled on by the victim. The following work the quilt. In fact, there were fibers like that found in the suspect's vehicle. That makes a link between suspect and victim through this quilt.
I think we
The evidence was presented to District Attorney Dan Also Brooks. Also Brooks was apprehensive about taking Pipkin to trial.
The obvious challenge of the case was the lack of a body. Once we got to trial with this issue of not having a body end up being reasonable doubt for the jury.
But police were determined to bring Pipkin to justice and ran through the evidence again.
We've got a quilt that has her blood on it. We know it was her blood on the quilt, her blood at the crime scene, and we can put the quilt in his truck.
We don't get two chances to try a murder case. He's found not guilty, that's it.
The DA was unconvinced he could get a conviction.
And we know that quilt.
A murder case is very difficult to make if it's totally circumstantial.
I know it's inaccurate.
You've got to convince a jury beyond a reasonable doubt that there's been a homicide and then prove beyond a reasonable doubt who committed the homicide.
She left that night. She was had everything here.
Sheriff Hicks knew June's body was out there somewhere.
Somebody tried to hide
And to him, the case was not closed.
And her watch had been torn from her arm.
2 years later, on August 23rd, 1993, a fisherman made a gruesome discovery. The lower half of a female torso surfaced in the Tennessee River. Her family recognized the clothing, and they knew it was June. Kenneth Pipkin was arrested and charged with murder. Police believe that June threatened to expose their relationship. Pipkin killed her to ensure her silence. But with the help of forensic science, June's story was finally told.
For a small town murder, probably had as many expert witnesses I've ever had in the case. I had a forensic pathologist that had done the autopsy. You had fiber experts, you had a blood expert from the TBI. It was a fascinating case to put together as a prosecutor.
Kenneth Pipkin was found guilty of second-degree murder. He is now serving a 20-year sentence. Some killers go to great lengths to keep their victims' whereabouts a mystery, leaving no bodies and only traces of the crime. There was a time when justice was scarce for these perpetrators. But today, forensic science arms law enforcement with the necessary weapons to convict, providing a witness where there is none. Women are turning up dead in their offices in suburban Texas. Bodies are found only a few miles apart. Investigators must link the crimes together in the hopes of stopping a killer before he strikes again. A convenience store owner is stabbed to death in broad daylight. Although the crime scene yields few leads, the victim's bones reveal the signature of the killer. Scientists must piece together small clues to solve the crimes. Often, criminals are careful to leave no evidence behind. But the methods of the murder itself can create a lasting impression, especially marked for death.